All right, let's open up the playbook. If you're an entrepreneur, you know the world is just drowning in content, in noise. So how in the world do you build a brand that doesn't just get a few likes, but actually gets people to pull out their wallets? Well, we've dug into the absolute best insights from marketing guru Seth Godin and some other top minds to give you a clear step-by-step guide. So let's get right into it and figure out how to build a brand that pretty much sells itself.
This quote, this gets right to the heart of the problem, doesn't it? You can spend all your time chasing these massive numbers, millions of followers, a viral video here and there, but then when it's time to actually launch something, you hear crickets. It is the most frustrating feeling in the world. You have all this attention, but you just can't turn it into actual sales. And the reason why? You're probably measuring all the wrong things. You see, Seth Godin has a name for these vanity metrics. He calls them false proxies. Think about it. Likes don't mean anyone truly likes you, and a follower doesn't mean anyone is actually following your advice. They're just numbers that are super easy to count, but are, at the end of the day, pretty worthless. So we've got to shift our focus. The real currency, the stuff that actually builds a business, is trust, earned attention, and genuine influence. Trust is really the best friend of attention, and it's the bedrock of any brand that's built to last. So how do we build that trust? Well, according to the playbook, it starts way before you ever post a single piece of content. The first step, the absolute first thing you have to do, is validate your idea. We have to make sure we've got something worth talking about in the first place. And this brings us to this amazing concept, the purple cow. Just picture this for a second. You're driving through the countryside and you see cows and more cows. And after a while, they're just boring, right? But what if all of a sudden you saw a purple cow? You would slam on the brakes, you pull over, you take a picture, and you tell everybody you know. That's the goal. Your product, your service, it needs to be so remarkable that people can't help but talk about it. And this isn't about some clever marketing gimmick. It's about building something that's genuinely different and incredibly valuable. Okay, so it's time for a moment of brutal honesty. I want you to look at what you're creating, what you're selling, and really ask yourself, if you were a stranger, if you didn't know you, would you actually buy this? Would you genuinely pick it over all of the other options out there? Now, if the answer is no, or even a hesitant maybe, then you've got more work to do before you can expect anyone else to care. To get a really objective answer, you can use this super powerful tool that private equity investors use. It's called the MOAT framework. Let's break it down real quick. M is for margin. Is this thing actually going to make you money? O is for operations. Can this business run without you working 24/7? A is for advantage. What's your unique, unfair edge that your competitors can't just copy tomorrow? And T is for TAM, the total addressable market. Basically, is the group of potential customers big enough to support your dreams? Score each one from 1 to 10. If you get over 30, you've probably got a winner. But if you're under 20, it's probably time to go back to the drawing board. Okay, so once you have a remarkable idea, the next step is, well, it's completely counterintuitive. You don't try to go viral. You don't try to reach the masses. You start by finding your 10 perfect people. That's it. Just 10, not 10,000, and definitely not 10 million. Find 10 people who already trust you. 10 people who have the exact problem that your product is designed to solve. I mean, if you can't find 10 people who trust you, you've got a bigger problem than marketing. But if you can, these 10 people become your entire world. The process here is so simple, but it is so powerful. First, you find those 10 perfect people. Then you serve them, and I mean you obsess over their experience. Did it truly solve their problem? Now, the real test comes next. If they don't just spontaneously go and tell other people about it, your product just isn't remarkable enough yet. You have to go back and make it better. But if they do tell others, you've done it. You've found your purple cow. Now, and only now, are you ready to even think about growing? Now that you've got a product that people genuinely love and are talking about, it's time to sell it. So, Section 3 tackles the one part that terrifies most new entrepreneurs: pricing. It's all about learning how to charge what you're worth, and, just as importantly, finding the right people who will happily pay it. So, who is your ideal customer? It's really worth taking a second to consider where the money actually is. Get this, the top 10% of earners hold about 60% of all the disposable income. Meanwhile, the other 90% of the population is left to compete for the remaining 40%. The takeaway here is pretty clear. It's often way easier and way more profitable to sell to the rich. They simply have more money to spend.
And here's the really surprising part. It's not just about the money. Wealthier clients often cause way less hassle. Why? Because they value their time, so they're not going to micromanage you. And a lot of times, successful people see a younger version of themselves in a hungry entrepreneur, and they actually want to help you succeed. Just compare that to a price-sensitive client for whom every single dollar is critical. Of course, they're going to be more demanding. So how do you know if you're priced correctly? Here's your benchmark. You should be hearing the word no about 70% of the time. Yeah, you heard me right. If 8 out of 10 people you talk to are saying yes, your prices are way, way too low. You're leaving a ton of money on the table. Hearing no isn't failure. It's valuable feedback that you're in the right ballpark. Okay, so you've got a great product, you've found your first true fans, and you've priced it right. Now for the final section, putting it all together to build a brand engine. An engine that earns the kind of trust and influence that creates real, sustainable growth. Let's start by blowing up a popular myth. Authenticity can actually be a trap. As Godin argues, people don't want your authentic bad mood. You don't want a surgeon who's authentically having an off day, right? No, you want a professional. You want consistency. That is, a promise that's made and a promise that's kept every single time. That's what builds real, deep trust over the long haul. So if consistency is what builds trust, how do you build influence? Well, it really comes down to these 4 pillars. First is status. Do you control something scarce and valuable? Then there's power. When people take your advice, do good things actually happen for them? You also need credibility. Do you have real-world proof that you know what you're talking about? And finally, likeness. Can your audience see themselves in you? Are you relatable? The more of these you can build, the more real influence you have, the kind that actually leads to sales, not just empty views. And that brings us to the ultimate question. Forget about the followers, forget about the likes. If you just stopped showing up tomorrow, would anyone genuinely miss you? Building a brand that sells itself isn't about being the loudest person in the room. It's about becoming a voice that people trust, that they rely on, and that they would truly honestly miss if it were gone. That's the mark of a brand that really matters.